YouTube. We're live on Instagram, and we are recording.
Okay. I don't know what this is.
All right, have a good stream. I'll be paying attention downstairs.
Thank you. All right, guys, welcome to Math Thursday. Let's get into some SAT problems. Woo woo! So go ahead and take a look at this this graph and let me know in the comments what you think about it. All right, we've got a C. Let's see, what else do you guys think? We've got the graph of a system of a linear equation and a nonlinear equation is shown. What is the solution to this system? So we got one person that says C. Let's see if anybody else agree, disagree. Maybe you have something else that you want. Let's get into it. Okay. So we have a linear equation and a nonlinear equation, right? So the linear equation is the one that looks like a straight line, which is this one here. Okay. And then our nonlinear equation is the one that's not a straight line. So that's going to be kind of this curvy one. Now, the solution to a system of equations, what makes this a system of equations is that there's more than one thing that's going on. Now, there is a solution to this, which means that it's a point that solves both of these equations. And as we know, the solution to an equation is a point that it passes through. So that would be that point right there. So it's going to be at 4 and 5. So the answer is C. Okay. Now, if you weren't really sure about that, you could probably do process of elimination. That 0, 0, nothing passes through that point at all, so that one's not going to be a solution. 0, 4, that only solves for the curved line, so that one's not going to be a solution for the whole system. And then 5, 0, again, nothing passes through that line, so that's not going to be it. So the only answer that works for this one out of these choices is C. Okay. Yeah, so 5, 0, 5, 0 would be out here. So you would go out to 5 and you kind of like go with, you don't go up or down because it's 0. So 0, 4, and 5, 0 are ones that are pretty close to what seem to be passed through just by one of the equations, but the system, the solution to the whole system is going to be a point that both of them pass through. So the answer to number 1 is C. For those of you joining us right now, this is a practice SAT bundle that you can get just from the College Board website. It's just a PDF. I know that nowadays all of the SATs are given primarily virtually, and so they can be like there's sort of a dynamic test where if you get one right, it'll change kind of the pathway of what you get next. So these practice tests don't perfectly mimic what your SAT is going to feel like, but the problems are really good. The problems are legitimate, like standard SAT problems, probably some recycled exam problems. So it gives you an idea for like the actual practice on the actual problems themselves. Okay, so let's take a look at number 3 here. Okay, so here we go. My thoughts on recursive expansive dynamics, a non-Smith cycloidal stress. I have 0 thoughts on that. 0 thoughts. I don't know. That's beyond my my pay grade, I would say. All right, so let's take a look at this problem here. The graph of the linear function f is shown where y equals f of x. What is the y-intercept of the graph of f? So let's take a look at that. What is the y-intercept? Ooh, we got a whole lot of D's. Yeah, Austin, that's good. So a lot of the SAT is actually pre-algebra based, like pre-algebra and algebra 1. So that's awesome that you're doing this stuff in the 7th grade because like it never changes. So that's one thing that I like about this concept is that like the y-intercept, when you learn what the y-intercept is, it's always the y-intercept. Okay, so let's give everybody just a little bit more time. Yep, 8th graders, yep. Yeah, it's really remarkable how much of the SAT and ACT are middle school math. And that's why it's so important not to skip or rush through. I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's so important not to skip or rush through middle school math, because there's so much fundamental stuff. Okay, so the y-intercept, no matter what the line looks like, it's where the graph crosses the y-axis, which is the vertical axis. So this point on the graph itself is this point right here. Okay, so our y-intercept is right up here. That's my y-intercept. Okay, I gotta make this a little bit thicker. There we go. So the y-intercept, yeah, that's better. There we go. All right, so the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. Always, always, always. It's not 0, 0, because that would be right here. It's not 0, negative 16/11 because that would be way down here somewhere, right? And then, actually, it wouldn't be that far. It would be like here, right? 0, negative 8 would be way down here. And so the only answer right there is 0, 8. Now you can also just kind of look at this and you can say, okay, this is, it's D, it's 0, 8. This is an SAT question. Yeah. So we are working from a PDF from the College Board website who runs the SAT. This is one of their practice or their released, practice SAT problems or packets that you can download. Yeah. So now these are really early in the exam. Like this is question number 3. So they typically get a bit more challenging as you go through more and more problems. And nowadays with the virtual testing, and you can do it online, it's much more dynamic. So you're going to be getting different, you get different levels of questions depending on how you do. Yeah, so kids will get confused if they don't know what the y-intercept is, for sure, right? But it's weird because this problem doesn't give you any tripping up questions, right? Like I would expect one of the answer selections to be like, 5, 0. So that would be where, or, 5.5, 0. Like I would expect that to be, because if you're not sure if it's the y-intercept or the x-intercept, that would be one that would trip you up. So these beginning questions are pretty straightforward, pretty direct. Okay, so let's take a look at this problem here. Okay, again, this is kind of an early question in the SAT. So we have 130, which is B. So Janie's, we're going to give everybody just a couple more minutes to kind of look through the problem and want to get some more people answering, and then we'll go through it. Okay, we'll go over it in just a few minutes. And then we're going to skip ahead to some more complicated, more challenging problems, I should say. Okay. Okay, so we've got lots of people saying it's B, and then we've got how is it B? We'll get into how we get the answer for this one. It is, yeah. Yeah, it is like a place value question. I can see that. Ooh, Janie's, I like how you're supporting your thinking and explaining. Okay, so on the first day of a semester, a film club has 90 members. So 90 members. So on day 1, we've got 90. Okay, each day after the first day of the semester, 10 new members join the film club. So right there, we know, well, we have, if no members leave the film club, how many total members will the film club have 4 days after the first day of the semester? So right there, if no members leave the film club and we've got 10 new members joining each day, I know it's not going to be 90, right? I know it's not going to be 90 because I've got adding 10 each time. So on day 2, I'm going to have 100. On day 3, I have 110. Day 4, I have 120. Day 5, which is 4 days after the first day, I have 130. So the answer is B. Okay. So the other options, again, the other options that you have on there are pretty straightforward if you understand kind of what's going on, right? We can do 10 times 4. Yep. Okay. You can do 4 plus 9, then throw 0 on the end. Yeah. Okay. So this is from the SAT. So the reason we do these problems is, I mean, to kind of show you that, first of all, to just kind of practice some thinking and some ways that we can go about some problem solving on the SAT, but also to take a little bit of the fear out of the SAT that there is a lot of, there are a lot of problems on the SAT that are really based on logic and like middle school level math, right? So there's a lot of problems on here that there's a lot of different ways. There are many different ways to solve these problems. A lot of it is logic again, right? So this is the SAT. So you're taking this like 10th or 11th grade, maybe senior year, right? Now again, the SAT now is given digitally primarily, so it's going to be more of a dynamic test. So you may get a different answer that, or sorry, not a different answer, but a different question based on your answer to the previous one. Okay. All right, let's do another page. Okay. Yeesh. Why can't I? gosh. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to. I know there's like going to be a better way. Okay, let's see. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Let's go here. Let's go to this one. Okay. Okay. So at a particular track meet, the ratio of coaches to athletes is 1 to 26. If there are X coaches at the track meet, which of the following expressions represents the number of athletes at the track meet? Ha ha ha. Okay, so if you think you've got the answer, pop it in the chat. If you have questions, put it in the chat. All right. If you like what we're doing, go ahead and, send a rose, send a something. Keep us going. Okay, you can send gifts if you like supporting us. I do teach high school math. Yep. Yeah, so I teach primarily sophomores, so 10th grade. But I've taught all through 5th grade through 12th grade, math and science. I also do lots of tutoring, one-on-one tutoring, virtual tutoring. So if you guys are in need of any tutoring or anything like that throughout the school year or throughout the summer, if you've got a summer packet or something, and you want me to help you work through it, click the link and do the stuff. Okay, we got some varied answers in here. Excellent. So Peyton, we're gonna get into it in just a few minutes because I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to look through the problem. Okay, but we'll get into it in just a couple minutes. Oh, I can move it down, sure. How's that? Is that better? Okay. All right. So let's talk about what a ratio is, right? So we've got the ratio of coaches. Whoops. We've got the ratio of coaches to athletes is 1 to 26. What that means is for every one coach, there are 26 athletes. That's a lot. That's a lot of athletes to keep track of. Oh my goodness. So if there's one coach, there are 26 athletes, right? So if there's two coaches, there are 52 athletes, right? Because for each coach, you've got 26 and 26, so that's 52. So 3 coaches, 4 coaches. So as you kind of look through that, you realize, oh, I am adding 26 each time that there's an increase in the coach. Now that would kind of lead you to think that it's C, right? But if you plug in the numbers that you know that one coach is 26, 2 coaches is 52. If I plug in 2 here, 2 plus 26 does not give me 52. But I know that 2 coaches is going to be 52 athletes. So now I can think, oh, well, what is 26 times 2? That's going to give me 52. So my answer for this one is B. Okay, so it is B. 26x. Good job, Peyton. You got it. So Braden, we don't really get into derivatives on this channel. We're usually really just kind of going up into Algebra 2 and Pre-Calc, and we're mainly going to be focusing on SAT through the summer, SAT and ACT. Yeah, no worries, you're good. Okay. All right, let's take a look at, ooh, do we want to get into this? Sure. We can get into this. Okay. Yeah, this is Algebra 2. This is really trigonometry. So it's asking you for the value of tangent 92 pi over 3. And remember, on the SAT, you do not get a unit circle. Okay, but I'm going to show you guys how to do this without a unit circle. I'm going to show, well, I'll show you guys how to do this like using your like unit circle, special right triangles, all of that. But then I'm going to show you how to do it without knowing what tangent is. Okay, so lower it. So if I zoom it out and lower it, how's that, Michelle? Okay. Yeah, just keep, you can always let me know if you can't hear me, you can't see me, you can't see something, because what you see is very different from what I see on the screen. So, and what I see on my iPad. My iPad is full of stuff, so I'm just seeing a teeny tiny little window of it. Okay, we've got some A's. All right. So there's a, okay, Maria, you're saying C. Okay. And so here's the thing, guys. When I do these exams, I don't go through and like vet the questions ahead of time or anything like that. Like, I'm just kind of working through this with you. Okay. So off the top of my head, because I have only looked at this problem as long as you have, and I haven't even started to work it out yet. I don't know what the answer is yet. So we're going to figure it out together. Okay. All right. So when we're looking at this, okay, I see tangent and I see 92 pi over 3. So what I know about that is that I do know that that is radians. So 92 pi over 3. Okay, now this is how I am going to figure this out without a unit circle and just really using my calculator. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and this is one of those things that comes up with lots of practice on taking the exams itself, okay? Because what I don't know the unit circle, but they do tell you that 2 pi radians is 360 degrees. I know that's going to go off the screen a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I know that I have a tangent key on my calculator. Okay, so 92 pi over 3, if I multiply this by 360 over pi, that's going to give me my answer in degrees. Okay, so I'm going to do 92 times 360 divided by 3, which is 11,040. Okay. Now, if I were using a unit circle or something like that, then I would need to subtract a bunch of times to figure out, I want to figure out what the reference angle is, right? But what I can also do is I can then, on my calculator, I'm going to do tangent 11,040. Okay, and that gives me, well, I'm going to say an estimate is 1.73205, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now, oh, sorry, that is 2 pi. I'm sorry, thank you. Thank you, that should be 2 pi, sorry. Okay. Okay, so that should be 360 over 2 pi. And you can do 180 over pi, which is what I got kind of crossed there. Okay, so let me get that. Hold on. Should be 2 pi. Okay. All right, so we've got 92 times 360 divided by 6. Okay, that's 5520. Okay, so now I'm going to take this, I'm going to do tangent 5520. So remember, guys, I am doing this, I am working this out right now as if I don't know about the unit circle, okay? Because you don't get a unit circle on the exam, okay, on the SAT or on the ACT. So what I'm showing you guys, this is if you're not really sure, just because you're not really sure of how to answer a problem doesn't mean you can't figure it out, right? You can figure it out. So that's what I'm doing right now. Is this the way that I would solve the problem if I were taking the exam myself? No. But I've been teaching math for 20 years. So this is not the way that I would do it. But if I were back being 15 and 16 years old, and I saw this and I wasn't quite sure what to do, I'm trying to show you guys that you can still figure it out, right? You can still figure it out just by using your calculator, okay? So if I type in, and I know I see that tangent, and I can even, well, I can do tangent 5520. So tangent 5520 is, okay, so that gives me, that does change my answer, right? I've got negative 1.73205, blah, 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 on and on and on, okay? Now, here's what I can do. So a good strategy for the SAT and the ACT is you can use the answer choices that you are given to find the right one. Okay, that's one strategy that you can use. So right there, I know that tangent 5520 is negative 1.7, blah, 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 blah. So right there, I know that it's going to be negative. So it's not C or D. So at least I've narrowed it down, right? At least I've narrowed it down that now instead of a 25% chance, if I'm just, you know, a shot in the dark, stab in the dark, right? At least I know now, well, I know it's going to be negative, okay? So now I'm going to just plug in, what is the root 3? What's the square root of 3? Oh, that's 1.73. There we go. So negative root 3, it's the same ugly decimal. Okay, if I did root 3 over 3, that gives me 0.5773. That's not the same decimal. Okay, so again, you can figure this out without a unit circle. Okay, so now with a unit circle, or if I know, you know, converting this into 5520, and then you can go in and you can use your special right triangles because you are given your special right triangles, right? If you did, so 5520, well, let's see, 92. So what would be the reference angle? Okay, the reference angle for this would be 120, so that's going to be 60, right? So then you would look at what quadrant is it in and all of that. But honestly, like even after having, you're not slow. Tan is it's tangent, okay, which is a trigonometry thing. So you may not have learned about trigonometry yet. But so tangent has to do with the right triangles, okay, like this. So if you've got this angle here, that's theta, right? So this would be your opposite, this is your adjacent, and this is your hypotenuse. So tangent would be opposite over adjacent. So it's this, so it's the opposite side length over the adjacent side length. So again, you can break this down and use the special right triangles, but honestly, when you're taking the SAT and the ACT, efficiency is key. I probably, honestly, even taking this today, I would probably still work this out this way. Why do I need to work out which which special right triangle it is, which reference angle? It doesn't matter which one it is. I can just type this into my calculator. And I could even, I don't even need to convert it into degrees. I can change my calculator into radians mode, and then I can just type that straight in and it'll give me that answer. Okay, now the other thing is if you've got a NumWorks calculator, which you guys know, I love my NumWorks calculators. When I type in tangent 5520, it tells me that it's negative root 3. It just gives me the radical. It simplifies radicals for you and all of that. Ta-da! Okay, let's take a look at another one, okay? Oh, this is perfect. Okay. I'll move it down. Okay. So this is another trigonometry question. So it's a great follow-up for our other one. For DAT math. What is the DAT? So these are SAT questions. Okay, so these are SAT questions, but I'm not sure. DAT math section. Very good. Okay, so with this one, it's really tempting to go ahead and like solve this triangle, right? So these questions that we're working through, this is right from a practice SAT question, an SAT packet. Again, I know the exam is digital now and it tends to be a little bit more dynamic, right? Changing the order of the questions and things like that based on how you answer. So these are practice problems from the paper exams that they used to give. So it's still good practice for strategy and practicing different concepts and things like that. But I know it isn't exactly the same as what the SAT experience is right now, okay? All right, so let's take a look at this. So again, we just talked about a tangent problem, right? We said opposite over adjacent. So cosine of an angle, which we call theta, that little zero with the slash through it. So cosine of theta is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Okay, and with this being our theta here, because they picked that for us, Our adjacent is here. This would be our opposite side, and this is our hypotenuse. So the only thing I actually have to do is just plug in. So cosine of x degrees is adjacent over hypotenuse, which is 11 over 8. So that would be my answer. That's it. That's trig. Okay. Now with this one, because it's short answer, if you don't know what cosine is, you're kind of out of luck because there's not a lot of other strategies that you could say, okay, or that you could use, okay? But yeah, it would be hard to kind of like figure this one out if you just have no idea what cosine is. But a lot of times what I tell my students, like my sophomores, when they take the practice SAT and things like that, you've got, yeah, it's SOHCAHTOA. You are able, on other questions when they're multiple choice, you can kind of use different strategies. But like what I tell my students is, you know, if it's a short answer and you just don't know what it is, just kind of make a guess. Don't leave anything blank. See, but like when I took the SAT way back in the day, there was a thing where like if you got it wrong, you lost 1/4 of a point. If you left it blank, it didn't count for or against you. It was such a mind game that they would play with you, that if you were like, well, should I guess or should I leave it blank, right? It's all nutso. Okay, so cosecant and cotangent, those are like arc cosine, arc, or not, sorry, they're not arc cosine. So those are like the inverse, they're flipped. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And then there's another ratio that, whoa, that is, I don't know what that is. If you did secant, theta would be the hypotenuse over the adjacent. Okay, so cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Secant is hypotenuse over adjacent. Cotangent is adjacent over opposite. And cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. Okay, so it's just flipping the cosine, sine, and tangent. That's all it is. Okay, all right, let's take a look at another one. Ooh, okay, so let's take a look at this. Oh man, standardized tests, they love questions like these, especially the SAT and ACT. They really love these. Okay, so go ahead, and if you like what we're doing, that we're doing all these SAT problems, please send gifts. Thank you for your support. It helps us continue to do these types of things. So thank you to those of you who have already sent roses and galaxies and all that fun stuff, okay? Are these the new CB questions? So these are from released practice SAT exams. That's what these are. And this one, oh, this is a lot more like reading comprehension than just math, huh? Okay, Mr. Mathed Up told me that the DAT is the dental admission test. So this, you know, this is a pretty, looking at the description of what concepts show up on the DAT, this is a pretty standard level of, you know, the most standardized tests, even like into the GRE and the DAT, and a lot of those admissions tests are algebra, data analysis, and some like quantitative reasoning, which would be like this kind of thing, right? And kind of logicking through things. All right, so let's see. All right, let's take a look at this problem. And again, I'm working through these problems with you guys. So I have not looked at the answer key or anything. So we're going to work through these together. This is a lot of reading. Yep. Okay. So let's check this one out. Okay. So Kaylani used fabric measuring 5 yards in length to make each suit for a men's choir. The relationship between the number of suits that Kaylani made, X, and the total length of fabric that she purchased, Y, in yards, is represented by the equation Y minus 5X equals 6. What is the best interpretation of 6 in this context? Okay, so we've got Y, which is the total length of fabric that she purchased. Okay, and X is the number of suits that she made. Now we know she uses 5 yards for each suit. So what we've got here is we've got the total length of fabric, which is Y, minus 5 yards per suit. And then it's got 6. So that means that Y, our total amount of fabric that we bought, is 5 more than how much she used for all of this, for all of the suits. Okay, so that would mean, so we don't know that she did not make 6 suits. We don't know that Y is 6 because it's Y minus 5X is 6. Right? We know she uses 5 yards to make a suit. So the answer here is D. Okay, so Kaylani purchased 6 yards more fabric than she used to make the suits because it's your total minus how much fabric she needed for the suits, which is 6. Okay. All right, there you go. Okay. So the answer for this one is D. Excellent. Lots of D's there. Okay, but that one is a lot of, that one's a lot of the like reading comprehension, right? Okay. All right, let's see. Finished this. Okay, let me see what we can get. Let's see what this one is. This one is. Oh. Okay. Sorry, guys. I know I gotta mess around with this a little bit more to see a better way to do these sheets. Okay, let's check out this one. Okay. Ooh, okay, here we go. Let's get into some function notation. So as you notice, if you've noticed, as we get into higher numbers on this SAT, they seem to be getting a little bit more challenging. So that is, I mean, that's true about the paper exam because it's like a static set order of the problems, but it isn't that way necessarily on the online version of the exam. Okay, but here we go. We've got a question about some function notations. Go ahead and take a look at that and see what you would get for your answer. Okay, 0, we got 336. So we've got a few things going on in this one, right? We've got function notation, which is where we've got g of x. Okay. So this g of x is called function notation. Okay. Now, when you graph a function like this is the only reason they're doing this where y equals g of x. They're just saying that you've got this. That's how you would graph it, because when we graph it on the coordinate plane, we've got the y-axis. So it's just saying this is the same thing as y equals x plus 14 times t minus x. Now, one thing that we do need to figure out is what is t. Okay, so in the xy plane, so we've got the graph of g of x passes through the point 24, 0. So when we look at this, we know that when x is 24, y is 0. Okay, so that means that so let's look at this, because in order to figure out what g of 0 is, I've got to know what t is. Okay, because otherwise I've got too many variables going on. So I know that when y is 0, x is 24. So I've got 0 equals, I'm going to plug in what I know, 24 plus 14 times t minus 24. Okay, so 24 plus 14 is 38 times t minus 24. Okay, so then I can divide both sides by 38 and I get 0 equals t minus 24, which means that t is 24. Okay, so t is 24. But now it's not asking us to figure out what t is. It's asking us to figure out what g of 0 is. Now, when we've got that g of 0, so g of 0 means that x is 0. So we could rewrite this equation up here. Instead of t, we can use 24 minus x. Okay, so t is 24. So now that I have that, now I can figure out that g of 0 is where I'm going to replace all my x's with 0. So 0 plus 14 is 14. 24 minus 0 is 24. So 14 times 24 is 336. So g of 0 equals 336. Nice job, those of you who got that. That's a tricky one. Okay, there's just a lot of like pieces to that one, right? Okay, let's get back to some multiple choice. Okay, ooh, let's look. Yeah, let's look at that one. And then this is probably going to be our last one that we're getting into today, but put in what you think this answer is. Okay, I got a little geometry going here. B, C, B, B. Okay. So a right rectangular prism, it's going to look something like this, right? Make it more of a rectangle. This is not drawn to scale, but the relationships are going to be the same. Okay, it's going to be something like that. Okay, so even though it's not drawn to scale, it doesn't mean that the relationship isn't true. It just means that it's not, I didn't measure this at all, right? Okay, so we've got a height of 9 inches. Okay, so we'll do a height of 9 inches there. The length of the prism's base is X inches, which is 7 inches more than the width of the prism's base. So that means that if X is 7 inches more, then that means that this dimension is X minus 7. So again, it doesn't matter. Length, width, and height, depth, whatever it is, height, length, and width. That doesn't matter which one is which, okay? What matters is that they are the 3 different dimensions, and to find volume, volume is going to be the length times the width times the height of that rectangular prism. Oh, and that went off to the side, sorry. So the volume is length times width times height. So again, it doesn't matter if I put mine at the base, the 9 should be over here. Oh, but I did, hold on. It does matter that I labeled this dimension twice. So I've got to put 9 here. There we go. Okay, so I've got X times 9 times X minus 7. So now once I have my answer, okay, so I can't call the length X plus 7 because X inches is 7 inches more than the width, okay? So the length is 7 inches more than the width. So the length is X and the length is the width plus 7. So then if X equals the width plus 7, then X minus 7 is the width. I know I'm writing that really tiny up to the side. So it's not going to be X plus 7, it's going to be X minus 7. So our answer in this case is option D. Okay. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us this week on our SAT Math Thursday. Let me know if you guys have any questions, comments, and again, send those, share with your friends. Send me those, lots of support and everything like that. And yeah, keep doing math. Have a great week. We'll be back again next Thursday, probably similar time. Bye.